Hello and welcome everybody to our program today. Welcome to the 19th Century Association in Oak Park, where our vision is to be a dynamic cultural center for community learning and to strengthen our community through learning, giving, and sharing our landmark building. I'm Diane Moses, the President and Program Chair of the Music Committee. We have 30 wonderful programs scheduled for you in our enrichment series, and we thank all of our sponsors. Gerry Dignan sings as Uncle Gerry for the internationally renowned Music Together Family Music Education Program. He was also a member of the world-renowned Chicago Symphony Chorus. He performs traditional Irish songs and has been singing in Irish gathering places for many a year. He and Denise lead summer tours to Ireland. In addition, Gerry loves to sing world music, black gospel, American and Spanish folk songs, soft rock, and to create moments of wonder and surprise through vocal improvisations. Please give him a very warm welcome.
Hello everybody, and happy day after St. Patrick's Day. Johnny was a country boy who loved to play the fiddle underneath his oxter from house to house to go. Johnny was a country boy who loved to play the fiddle underneath his oxter from house to house to go. Hey, Johnny, when you die, leave to me a fiddle. Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me a bow? Johnny, when you die, leave to me a fiddle. Johnny, when you die, leave to me a bow. Woo! Jibbity-jibbity-hum-dum, jibbity-jibbity-diddly-day, jibbity-jibbity-diddly-day, jibbity-jibbity-hum-dum, jibbity-jibbity-diddly-day, jibbity-jibbity-diddly-day. And you sing that with me. Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your fiddle? Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your bow? Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your fiddle? Johnny, when you die, leave to me your bow. Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your fiddle? Johnny, when you die, leave to me your bow. Now we'll do a little mouth music, and you can make it up. Here we go. Diddly-diddly-dum-dum, diddly-diddly-diddly-day, diddly-diddly-diddly-day, diddly-diddly-dum-dum, diddly-diddly-diddly-day, diddly-diddly-diddly-day. Sounds good. We entertain the boys and girls who live down in the village hall. Played for them the lively tunes they danced along ago. We entertain the boys and girls who live down in the village hall. Played for them the lively tunes they danced along ago. Well, Johnny, when you die, leave to me your fiddle. Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your bow? Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your fiddle? Johnny, when you die, leave to me your bow. Woo! Diddly-diddly-hum-dum, diddly-diddly-diddly-day, diddly-diddly-diddly-day, diddly-diddly-hum-dum, diddly-diddly-diddly-day, diddly-diddly-diddly-day. Take your partner to the floor, step it down to twos and fours. He's going to play on his fiddle and his bow. Take your partner to the floor, step it down to twos and fours. He's going to play on his fiddle and his bow. Well, Johnny, when you die, leave to me your fiddle. Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your bow? Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your fiddle? Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your bow? Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your fiddle? Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your bow? Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your fiddle? Johnny, when you die, will you leave to me your bow? Thank you.
We have a big dance floor here, so feel free. Céad Míle Fáilte. As my Aunt Ellen said to me nearly 50 years ago, Céad Míle Fáilte, 100,000 welcomes. And I thank you for having me here today. I'm delighted to share the stories that came to me through my grandmother's sister, the only one of the 8 siblings who did not emigrate to Chicago. She stayed, and that's another story. But she was there in 1975 when I first went and sat by her fireside with her. And she had a drop of the creature in one hand and a fag in the other, and she'd puff away. And she'd tell me stories into the wee hours of the morning. And she said, "Now, Gerry, you must tell the Yanks in America the stories of old Ireland." And I promised her that I would, and I have been now for 49 years. So, thank you. It's one of the great treasures of my life. So, the stories, some will charm you, some might alarm you, but none will harm you. And she was a great storyteller. You know, they only had television when I went there in '75, only a few hours a day, and never had a radio until World War II came around. So the way they passed the time in rural Ireland was through great storytelling, you know, and that's how the neighbors spread the news and kept each other entertained. So the stories come from my Aunt Ellen, who lived just short of her 97th birthday. She was born in 1898, and her son Joe, who is alive and well and 97 right now, living in the County Cork, and just a great storyteller. So I've been the recipient of, the two of them have very generously shared their stories with me. But I'd like to, a lot of people don't know there actually is an Irish language. They think it may be, like here's my favorite story. I used to teach in the city, and down around 26th and Kedzie, and it was mostly Hispanic families. And one little lad, he had not been in the United States very long. So it was St. Paddy's Day, and I kept my word, and I told the kids stories of old Ireland. So the next day, little Jose Luis Palma comes up to me, and he says, Mr. Dignan. I say, yeah, Jose Luis, what is it? I can speak Irish. I said, really? Yeah. I said, okay, well, speak some Irish for me. Tis. I said, good for you. That's a good Irish word, tis. So, but let's count from 1 to 10 in Irish. So here we go. A hen, a doe, a tree, a cahar, a cuig, a shea, a shacht, a hacht, a knee, a dah. And that's only one counting system. They have 3, depending upon if you're counting people or things or animals or having like a math class. So it's complicated. I've been studying it off and on for a long time, and I'm still very much a beginner. So also, if you're a generous person, they'd say, oh, he's a great flahool. A flahool is a generous person. So let's say that, flahool. Or if somebody says, well, why did you go and say that? Ya Amadan. A goofball, you know. Let's say, ya Amadan. Amadan. There you go. And if you ask, how are you? You say, Canas Tatu. Canas Tatu. To say fine, Gama. Gama. And thanks is a mouthful. Gurav Mahagath. It technically means, may goodnesses be with you. That's how they thank each other. May goodnesses be with you. So we'll say, Gurav Mahagath. Gurav Mahagath. There we go. So that'll complete our Irish lesson for the day. But yeah, I love it. So, whoops, I already got it tuned. Put new strings on, and I can hear I already need to retune it. Lovely. Thank you. Now, I'd like to sing a song for you called Come by the Hills, to kind of invite you into the land where legends remain, where life is a song, where stories of old fill the heart and may yet come again. And the cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. Come by the hills to the land where fancy is free. Stand where the peaks touch the sky and the rocks meet the sea, where the rivers run clear and the bracken is warm in the sun. And the cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. You sing that with me. All the cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. All the cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. Come by the hills to the land where life is a song. Sing while the birds fill the air with their joy all day long, where the trees sway in time, even the wind sings in tune. And the cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. Again, all the cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. Come by the hills to the land where legends remain, stories of old fill the heart and may yet come again, where the past has been danced and the future is still to be sung. And the cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. All the cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. All the cares of tomorrow, all the cares of tomorrow, all the cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. Thank you. So I always pose this question give you a moment to think about it. What have you always known? If anything comes to mind, it's a good question to ask yourself. What have you always known? Well, in my case, I've always known that I just had to go to Ireland. Ever since I can remember. My grandparents were from Ireland, and I just loved them. And I would always try to get them to talk about Ireland. And it just seemed like something a place I just had to be. Well, my father used to sing a song, and I'm sure some of you will recognize it. Sure, a little bit of heaven fell from out the sky one day, and it nestled in the ocean in a spot so far away. And when the angels found it, sure it looked so sweet and fair. They said, suppose we leave it. Ah, it looks so peaceful there. So they sprinkled it with stardust, just to make the shamrocks glow. It's the only place you'll find them, no matter where you go. and they dotted it with silver to make the lake so grand. And when they had it finished, sure they called it Ireland. Well, I think I literally believed the words to that song, that it must be heaven, you know. Well, if you read Irish history, you know it's a lot of things that aren't very heavenly, but there is a magical thing about it. I always felt that and feel it still when I go to Ireland. Well, when I was a student in my third year of college, I was on the Year Abroad program from the University of Illinois, and I was in Barcelona, Spain. Just a great, great, great year of my life. And I thought, gosh, I'm this close to Ireland. I can't go home before going to Ireland. So I wrote my parents a letter. My father had said, you get one phone call this year. Phone calls are expensive. So it's not quite the same now, right? So you could call Spain 10 times a day if you wanted, just right now. But anyway, you get one phone call. All right, Dad. So I wrote a letter, and they wrote me very often as well. And I asked my parents for permission to go to Ireland before I came home at the end of the school year. And a few weeks later, I got the response, yes, go to Ireland. So then I wrote my grandmother a letter, who lived with us the last 7 years of her life, who I just adored. And I said, Gram, what is your sister's name and address in Ireland? I want to go see her. So a few weeks later, the response came. My sister's name is Ellen Quinn, and her address is the Rose Cottage, Mount Delvin, Clonfad, Ballyhonnes, County Mayo, Ireland. Okay. So I wrote my Aunt Ellen a letter, and a few weeks later, a response came. My dearest Gerry, this is your Aunt Ellen calling in answer of your most welcome letter. Do come see me in June. I've a cottage away out in the heart of the countryside. I've no running water, but I've all me wants. I've me cooker in at the house. I've me electricity. I cook over the fire, and we'll have a grand time. When you get to Dublin, telegram me, as we have no telephones around here. Telegram me and tell me what day you'll be arriving in Ballyhonnes. Take the train from Dublin to Ballyhonnes. And myself and my son John will be there to collect you. All right. So that was great. So I had a tearful farewell at the end of my year with my Spanish family, and I headed up. It was the beginning of June, and buses and trains to northern France, and a boat over the English Channel, and more trains and hitchhiking till I got to Holyhead, Wales, northern Wales. And I took the ferry across the Irish Sea, landed in Dún Laoghaire, and made my way to Dublin, and spent a couple days there, and then sent her the telegram. All right, so I got off the train in Ballyhonnes, and I didn't know exactly who I was looking for, but I turned around, and I see an elderly woman with a middle-aged man. I thought, maybe that's them. And then I heard her say, John, go see, is that Gerry over there? So I said, okay. I walked over there, and hi, Aunt Ellen. Oh, Céad Míle Fáilte, Gerry. Céad Míle Fáilte. Welcome to Ireland. 100,000 welcomes. Well, thank you, Aunt Ellen. Well, come now. John will take us out to the heart of the countryside, and you'll stay in my cottage. It's over 100 years old. I said, wow. So off we went, and she said, will you be here in August? I said, well, I don't know. You know, I had thought I might spend a couple of days. Well, all of my children are coming home in August to celebrate my 76th birthday, and you're welcome to stay. I said, all right. So all of her children were in England. Okay. So I didn't stay till August, but I did stay for a month. And so we went to her cottage, and it was like going into the movie The Hobbit, you know. I had to bend down to get in the door. And she had a barrel of water, which was rainwater, outside the front door. She said, that's the water we use for bathing and washing the clothes. Okay. And then you step into the main room of the house, and that's the living room and the kitchen and the dining room and the family room and the everything room, you know. And then there was a small bedroom to the left and a small bedroom to the right. And that was the girls, the 2 daughters' room, and then it was her room to the left. And the 5 sons slept above in the loft and the hay. So she raised the 7 children in that little cottage. All right, so you look at her mantelpiece, and there was a framed picture of Sister Dorothy, our cousin the nun. And next to that was a framed picture of Father Kennan, our cousin the priest. And next to that was a framed picture of John F. Kennedy, who may have been a cousin, we don't know. And next to that was a framed picture of Pope Paul VI, who I doubt was a relation. But that was her world, and she said, now, Gerry, I'm going to send you up to the well with a bucket of water. 'Tis the grandest well in all of Ireland, Gerry. That well has never run dry in over 100 years, in over 200 years. 'Tis the loveliest water in all of Ireland. So I took Mrs. Welsh is waiting for you. So I went up the hill. When I got to the top of the hill, I got to the well, and I dipped that bucket into the water. It was a spring well, and fresh, cold water. And I thought, how many of my ancestors did this years and years, generations ago? So it was quite a moment for me. And then I stood up and I turned around, and off in the distance, as she had told me, she said, it's a clear day. You'll see the holy mountain of Crowpatrick, 40 miles in the west. And I did. It was a gorgeous day. And I thought whoever made this house was really thinking, most cottages are made parallel to the road, you know, but this one was at an angle to the road. So you had the house, the well, the holy mountain, and the setting sun right behind the mountain. And I said, somebody set this up, you know. It was beautifully done. So, Aunt Ellen, as I said, raised 7 children in that house. And I say, just 1 second here now. I'm going to wet me throat again. Thank you. I always say that Aunt Ellen, you know that saying, if adversity in life doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. She embodied that for me, because she had rough times to get through. So all of her brothers and sisters had emigrated to Chicago, so they're 4,000 miles away, and they were saving up for her passage over to Chicago as well, until they got a telegram that a match had been made. Their father had made a match for Ellen, and they were very upset. The reason being, they knew the man that their father had made the match with her for, and he was a good man, but Ellen was 17 years old, which was not uncommon for a young woman to be married at that age, and he was 45 years old. Actually, that was not uncommon either. It did give her economic security because he was a blacksmith, and he had a good, dependable source of income. So that was good. He had a handicapped sister, and so his parents were gone. It was often the case that these matches were made, and I didn't know anything about matches being made. I always thought of like Fiddler on the Roof, you know, matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match, find me a find, catch me a catch, right? But I didn't know that it was in Ireland as well. But it was certainly a way of life. And I said to her, well, was there anything you could do about it, Aunt Ellen? after the match was made. She said, no, it would bring shame upon the family. But thank goodness he was a good man and he did know her. Often they didn't know each other, the bride and the groom, to be married. So they had 7 children, and then he died suddenly. He died one day. And this is also a predicament that many young Irish women found themselves in, because they were matched with men who already had the land, so they were much older, they had children, and then many times the fellow died. And so she was left with 7 children. She said, I had to teach the lads to work in the blacksmith and the forge, and I took on the blacksmith work as well. And I had to teach them all to do the farm work, the boys and the girls, and teach the girls to do the housework. But if you looked at Aunt Helen's arms, it looked like they were made or cut from stone, because they were just solid rock. But doing that blacksmithing, using those heavy, heavy tools, you know, and all that, it made her powerful. And she was a woman who really feared nothing except a thunderstorm. That was the only thing she feared. She even, one day, she was in her 80s when this happened. She was taking her afternoon nap and she heard some noises out in the living room. So she got up and she looked and she saw 3 people there, a big woman and a small woman and a small man, she said. So she said, can I help you? And the big woman turned around and said, you get yourself back to bed. She said, well, I'm glad to help you. Get back to bed, she says. Well, there's nothing for you here, said Aunt Helen. I'll decide if there's anything for me here, you old bitch. Now get back to bed, or you'll be sorry you didn't. And Aunt Helen said, I could tell she'd give me a blow before she'd give me a cup of tea. So she was very quick. She went running out into the road, and she started shouting, thank God you're here, John. Thank God you're here. Come quick, John. Well, the 3 of them were scurrying out of the house and down the road and into their car and zooming away down the road. Well, John was 5 miles away in the bog. He was nowhere near. But she got rid of those 3. And then another day, the priest came. And he came to visit. Oh, well, sit down, Father, and we'll have a cup of tea. And so they got to talking, and he said, now, Mrs. Quinn, I know you own the field down there by the bog. I do, she said. Well, it would be a great blessing for you if you would donate that field to the church. She said, well, I'm sure it would be, Father. But that field will be going to my son Tom when I'm gone. Well, now, Mrs. Quinn, think it through. I know that is the tradition, that he gets the land, but this would be a great blessing, and God would smile kindly on you for it, to donate that land to the church. I'm sure God would smile kindly on me, she said. But that piece of land is going to my son Tom, Father. So the discussion went on, and it got heated and more heated. And he finally hollered at her, well, if you won't give us the field, we'll take it from you, Mrs. Quinn. You'll take it from me, will you, Father? You'll take the field out from under me, will you, Father? Well, have a go. Have a go. See where you get it from me, Father. She said when he left the house, he was like a wild man. Well, he never did get the field, and not long after that, he was transferred to Knock, the holy shrine of Knock. You may have heard of it. It's where, where the Blessed Mother and a vision like that was had, and it's a holy place where pilgrims go. And so it's like Fatima or Lourdes or Medjugorje, and so people come from all over the world to go to Knock. So he was transferred to Knock, and she used to go to Knock because it was only a half-hour ride from where she lived. Every month or so, she'd go to Mass in Knock. Well, when he got transferred, she would go there, and you know the old-fashioned way of giving the communion on the tongue, and you get on your knees and, all that. So she would calculate, where is he going to be at that communion rail? And so that's where she'd go. And she'd get down on her knees at the communion rail, and she'd put her hands together, and she'd lift her eyes up so saintly. And when it came time, she'd stick her tongue out extra far. And she enjoyed telling that story. So here's a song for Aunt Ellen Quinn. Oh, if all the girls in the town were huddled up together, I know a girl, she'd beat them all in any kind of weather. The rain can't wash her powder off, 'cause she doesn't wear it. If you don't believe me, sure 'tis I myself will swear it. For she's a fine, big, strong, stout lump of an agricultural Irish girl. She neither paints nor powders, and her figure is all her own. She can kiss so hard, well, you think with the kick of a mule you got, she'll fill your arms full of Irish love, Marianne Malone. She was only 17 last grass, still improving greatly. I wonder, will she be at all when her bones are set completely? You think your hand was in a vice the moment that she'd shake it. If there's any beer around, just Marianne will take it. She's a fine, big, strong, stout lump of an agricultural Irish girl. She neither paints nor powders, and her figure is all her own. She can kiss so hard, well, you think with the kick of a mule you got, fill your arms full of Irish love, Marianne Malone. Aye, the diddle-de-die, the diddle-dum, skiddle-de-eye, the diddle, skiddle-de-eye, the diddle-dum, skiddle-de-eye, the diddle, skiddle-de-eye, the diddle-dum, skiddle-de-eye, the diddle, skiddle-de-eye, the diddle-dum, skiddle-de-eye, the diddle. Oh, she's a fine, big, strong, stout lump of an agricultural Irish girl. She neither paints nor powders, and her figure is all her own. She can kiss so hard, well, you think with the kick of a mule you got. Fill your arms full of Irish love, Marianne Malone. She'll fill your arms full of Irish love, Marianne Malone. She'll fill your arms full of Irish love, Marianne Malone. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, the Pishog was a big part of the culture of rural Ireland. Pishog refers to superstitions, roughly. That was a large part of the way of life. There we go. And all kinds of things in everyday life were related to the Pishog. Like if you were walking down the road and there was a farmer working in his field, you had to say, God bless the work. And he would say, and God and Mary bless you. But if you didn't say God bless the work, it maybe was like you were putting a spell on that field. Give bad luck to that field. So God bless the work. A black cat was a sign of good luck. Joe told me if you were going into town to do some business and you saw a black cat, oh, that was good. You were going to have a good turnout to your business that day. Let's see, if you saw a leaning bush, a lone leaning bush in the middle of a field, you'd do everything to prop up that bush, because if it fell, your good luck would fall. And if there was a lone tree in the middle of a field, you wouldn't cut that down, because you'd be cutting down your good luck. And if there was a little hill in the middle of a field, you wouldn't touch it, because that was a fairy hill, and you didn't bother the fairies. You didn't annoy them. You didn't want any trouble with the fairies, and they would leave you alone if you left them alone. Now, good luck was at the new year to take the blood of the rooster and put it on each door in the house. That would bring you good luck. Also, at New Year's Eve, she would wake one of the boys up at maybe 3 or 4 a.m. and hand him an empty bucket. Go get some water. I'd say, Mammy, this time night, can't I get it later on? Go to the well and get the water. So they'd get up the hill they'd go, fill the bucket with the water, and they'd come down. and they'd walk into the house. Oh, she would feel very good because it was good luck if the first person to walk into your house was a boy or a grown man. So that was the old tradition. Yeah, so it was part of the everyday way of life. Now, one day I said to Aunt Ellen, Aunt Ellen, do you believe in fairies and such things like that? She says, oh, I never saw a fairy, thanks be to God, touch wood. I said, but you believe in them? Oh, in my day, we had plenty of fairies and ghosts. Her grandson, Alan, I asked him, he was my age. I said, Alan, do you believe in fairies and all that? Oh, I wouldn't say I do, but I wouldn't say I don't. It's a real Irish answer, that one. So Aunt Ellen said, I'll tell you a story. I said, all right. There was one day my bicycle had gone hoodlum boodlum. Now, she used to ride her bicycle until the age of 80 years old, the 6 miles into the village of Clonfad and back. And finally, the doctor said, I'm going to take that bicycle from you. You can't keep riding that. If anything should happen. Anyway, she depended on her bicycle. Very few people had cars at the time. The doctor and the priest, mainly, were the only people who had cars. So she said, I told my children, I'm taking the bicycle over to Tom Flanagan's. He was the best man for repairing the bicycles. All right, Mammy, we'll be here when you get back. So off she goes, and she comes to the fairy field. And she knew better than to cut across the fairy field, even though it was a shortcut to get to Flanagan's on the other side. No, she walked the bicycle all the way around this big old field, and she got to Flanagan's. Oh, Mrs. Quinn, what's on you? What brings you here? Oh, the bicycle has gone hoodlum boodlum. Well, never mind. We'll have it for you in a couple of days. Come in now and have a cup of tea and a tomato sandwich. Oh, grand. So they sat down and they had the tea and the sandwich, and then the tea led to a drop of the creature, and one drop led to another, and before you knew it, it was the middle of the night. And so Aunt Ellen said, oh, by God, I've got to get home. And my children will think the swoog has risen up and swallowed me. All right, goodbye now, Ellen. It was grand to see you. Good night now, good night, good night. So she starts the long walk back. And she came to the fairy field. And she thought, oh, I'll cut across this field. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. So she just kept walking. And then she was just so tired. She said, well, maybe Jesus and Mary and St. Joseph and all the saints will protect me from the Fijiana Matherwells. Because if you go across that fairy field and you see the Fijiana Matherwells, which are the dancing lights around your ankles, no matter how hard you try, you cannot find your way out of that field. She said, so she prayed, and then she climbed the stone wall. And in Ireland, there's lots of miles and miles of stone walls. And they say, if these stones were worth anything at all, sure the English would have taken them away years ago. So she climbed over the stone wall and she landed and she looked down. Oh, Buya Kaslagia, thanks be to God. No Fijiana Matherwells dancing around her ankles. So she crossed about halfway and she looked down. Glory be to God, no Fijiana Matherwells. And she got just about to the other side of the field, and she could see her cottage pretty close there in the distance. And she looked down. Oh, Mushagavora Jeering, God help me. The Fijiana Matherwells have got me. They put a spell on me. So she said, I walked and I walked and I walked. And no matter what I did, I could not get to my cottage. So I finally sat down next to a cock of hay. Because the only way you can break the spell is if someone comes in and takes you by the hand and leads you out. So she thought, oh, God help me. But luck was on her side because she heard this whistling. Oh, that'll be Mick Malarkey, she said. How did you know it was Mick Malarkey? I said. Because he always was whistling, and he only whistled the same tune all of his life. So I knew that was him. All right. So she calls out, "Hey, Mick!" And he said, "Oh, God help us. Who is that?" "'Tis Ellen Quinn." "Mrs. Quinn, what are you doing out at this time of night? And in that field of all fields? You know, I know, Mick. Just come in and get me out." So he climbed the wall and took her by the hand, and he led her out, and he went home. When she got home, her oldest daughter, Della, was there. "Mammy, where have you been? We're worried sick about you." "I know them Flanagans," she said. "Once they get their gob open, they never shut it." So Joe said, "Gerry, I remember that night, and I remember what she said, and I don't know, was it the Fagina Matherwells or the bottle that came out at Flanagan's, but something had her going around in circles." So, no. So I think we can all do this song. Over in Killarney, help me out. Many years ago, my mother sang a song to me in tones so sweet and low. 'Twas a simple little ditty in her good old Irish way, and I'd give the world if she were here to sing to me today. Tor-a-lora-lora, tor-a-lora-lai, tor-a-lora-lora, hush now, don't you cry. Tor-a-lora-lora, tor-a-lora-lai, tor-a-lora-lora, that's an Irish lullaby. When Irish eyes are smiling, sure it's like a morning spring. In the lilt of Irish laughter, you can hear the angels sing. When Irish hearts are happy, all the world seems bright and gay. But when Irish eyes are smiling, sure they'll steal your heart away. Oh, lovely. Well, one day I asked Aunt Ellen, "Did you ever hear of the Banshee, Aunt Ellen?" "Oh, I heard the Banshee." "You heard the Banshee?" "I did. I heard the Banshee." I said, "Well, how did that happen?" "Well, there was a time we had a cow calving, and it was the middle of the night, and I woke up Joe. And I said, 'Come, Joe, we'll go check on the cow.' 'All right, Mammy.' So we went down the road and crossed the road and found the cow in the field, and she was all right. Everything was okay. So grand. So, 'Come, Joe, we'll go home.' We turned around to go home, and she said, 'Stop. Do you hear that, Joe?' And Joe said, 'Hear what, Mammy? I don't hear anything.' Now remember, this was very, very quiet countryside. No cars or things like that. She said, "'Tis over there, Joe, by the Welsh's cottage." "What's over there, Mammy?" "'Tis the Banshee, Joe." "Hara, don't say that, Mammy." "'Tis, Joe, 'tis the Banshee." Now Joe knew what it meant, that if you heard the Banshee, someone was going to die. She said, "Oh, God help them, Joe. God help the brothers, the Welsh brothers who lived in that cottage." "Stop it, Mammy. Come, Joe, we'll go home. We'll go home. God help them." So they went home. Joe went back up into the loft and went to sleep. But Aunt Ellen couldn't sleep. She sat up by the fireside and she prayed. She prayed a rosary. She prayed and prayed until she finally did fall asleep. Well, the next morning, the Welsh brothers, Packy and Stephen, they used to make tables and chairs. And there was a fair day in Clonfad. So they were going into the fair to sell their wares. And they piled everything up on the wagon, as they always did. And they hooked up the big workhorse they had, as they always did. And Packy led the way, and Stephen was coming up behind to make sure nothing would fall off of the wagon. And they lived at the top of that hill. And so they were coming down the big hill, just as they always had. And for some reason, the horse lost its footing. And for all Packy tried, he couldn't get control of this big, big workhorse. And the horse and the wagon ran over Packy. Now Aunt Ellen was awoken by all the commotion, and she came running out into the road. It was just close to her cottage. And she ran down there and she saw Packy in the road. She said, I knew he was dead. She said, I heard the banshee, and I prayed and prayed and prayed for you both, Stephen, she said. But I heard the banshee. It was his time. It was his time. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. Summer's gone, all the leaves are fallen. 'Tis you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. 'Tis I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But when you come and all the flowers are dying, if I am dead, as dead I well may be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say an Ave there for me. And I shall hear the soft you tread above me, and all my grave will warmer, sweeter be. For you will bend and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me. So, this is a natural segue into a song about Irish wakes, which have the fame of being a little bit crazy sometimes. And Irish wake was a big thing. You know, they wanted the God and all the angels and saints to know that this was a good person. So they gave him a great farewell. And they have every right to come through those pearly gates, because they were good. So there'd be food, and there'd be drink, and there'd be corncob pipes, and then prayer time would come, and everybody on their knees and praying the rosary, but there was also much celebrating. And of course, the keeners would come. Now, keen is an Irish word that means to cry. Keeners were women who were hired to come to the wake and cry. But they did much more than just sit there and crying. No, 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 no. This was a big deal. And Joe said, "Oh my God, Gerry, the way they would cry, and they'd be wailing and shrieking and carrying on, and oh, Tommy, why did you leave us? Oh God, why did you take our Tommy? We hardly knew him. Oh Lord," and they'd pull their hair out and they'd throw themselves at the foot of Tommy. Oh, and everybody in the room couldn't bear it, you know. They'd get chills from the head to their toes, and everybody was weeping. It sounds kind of healthy, actually, you know. But that was the keeners. And so here's a little crazy song about poor old Tim Finnegan. And he died. And the friends had the wake, of course. And this is what happened. Tim Finnegan lived on Watkins Street, a gentle Irishman but mighty odd. He'd a beautiful brogue so rich and sweet, and to rise in the world he carried a hod. But you see, he'd a sort of a tippling way. With a love for the liquor, poor Tim was born. To help him on his way each day, he'd a drop of the creature every morn. Back for the dad, old empty partner, out the floor, you thought their shake. For the net, the truth, I told you, lots of fun, and Finnegan's awake. One morning, Tim was rather full. His head felt heavy, which made him shake. He fell from the ladder and he broke his skull. So they carried him home, his corpse to wake. They laid him up in a nice clean sheet and laid him out upon the bed, with a bottle of whiskey at his feet, a gallon of porter at his head. Back for the dad, oh dance to your partner, out the floor you thrust for shame. Wasn't it the truth? I told you, lots of fun, and again's awake. His friends assembled at the wake, and Mrs. Finnegan called for lunch. First they brought in tea and cakes, then pipes, tobacco, and whiskey punch. Then Biddy O'Brien began to cry. Such a nice, clean corpse did you ever see? Ah, Tim of Orneen, why did you die? Ah, hold your gob, says Paddy McGee. Back for the dad, old plenty of partner, out the floor, you throughout the day. Wasn't it the truth? I told you, lots of fun at Finnegan's away. Then Miley O'Connor took up the job. Oh, Biddy, says she, you're wrong, I'm sure. Biddy gave her a belt in the gob and left her sprawling on the floor. And the war did soon engage, 'twas woman to woman and man to man. Shillelagh law was all the rage, and the row and the ruction soon began. Back for the dad, old auntie, your partner, out the floor you thrust her shake. Wasn't it the truth? I told you, lots of fun, and Finnegan's awake. Then Mickey Maloney ducked his head when a bottle of whiskey flew at him. It missed him falling on the bed. The whiskey scattered over Tim. Now Tim revived. See how he rises. Trinity rising from the bed. Says, were your whiskey on the blazes? Hanuman, do you think I'm dead? What for the dad, oh, down to your partner, off the floor, you thrust the shake. Wasn't it the truth? I told you, lots of fun at Finnegan's wake. What for the dad, oh, down to your partner, off the floor, you thrust the shake. Wasn't it the truth? I told you, lots of fun at Finnegan's wake. What for the dad, oh, down to your partner, off the floor, you thrust the shake. Wasn't it the truth? I told you, lots of fun at Finnegan's wake. Now, I'm having a devil of a time seeing that clock. How much time? Am I already over?
5 minutes.
Okay, good. All right. So, this Irish fella in Dublin, he was looking for a spot to park his car. Of course, Dublin is a very densely populated city now. 1/3 of all the Irish people in Ireland live in Dublin. And it used to be nobody had cars. Well, now everybody has a car, and it's hard to find a parking spot. So he had an appointment. Nobody used to have appointments. They were used to say, well, if not this Saturday, then the next Saturday. And if not that Saturday, then the Saturday after that. But now we have appointments, right? So he's driving around this car park, and for love nor money, he cannot find a parking spot. And he's starting to get really upset and lose his mind, and finally starts praying. It had been quite a while since he did this. So he starts praying, God Almighty, please help me. I've got to find a parking spot. He said, I promise I'll start going to Mass every Sunday again, God. I will. And I'll pray the rosary even, every night, on my knees. Please, God, help me. Well, high in the sky, the clouds parted, and a beam of light landed on an open parking spot. And he quickly raised his eyes to heaven and said, never mind, I found one. Oh. So Dr. Donovan and his patient Cullum, he calls Cullum and he says, Cullum, yeah, doctor. Well, Cullum, I've got bad news and I've got worse news. Oh my God, doctor. Well, what's the bad news? Well, Cullum, you've only got 24 hours to live. What? Oh my God, doctor. What's the worst news? I've been trying to get a hold of you since yesterday. Now one more bad joke. All right. All right. Mikey and Eileen fell in love. And they lived away out in the hills of Connemara, way out in the County Galway. And they hadn't had much schooling, you know. But they were in love and they got married, and a year later, of course, the baby was being born. So the doctor come to the cottage, and the doctor says, oh, by God, it's time, all right. All right, Mikey, hold up the light. Hold up the light. Yes, doctor, right. So, the baby's born. And the doctor says, Mikey, you're the proud father of a beautiful baby girl. Oh, God, this is lovely, Father. Hold it, Mikey. Hold it. There's another one on the way. Hold up the light, Mikey. All right, Father, right. Oh, and the second baby is born. Oh, you've got a handsome little lad, Mikey. Congratulations. Oh, it's a miracle, Father. It's a miracle. Hold it, Mikey. Hold it. There's another. Hold up the light, Mikey. Doctor, do you think it's the light that's attracting him? There we go. All right, so now we'll follow that with a few words of wisdom from the Irish. Some good old proverbs. An empty pail makes the most noise. A soft answer turns away anger. There's no hearth like your own hearth. In Irish they say, Ní léinn tan tán, mar da hin tán hain. There's no hearth like your own hearth. No strength without unity. You can't make a racehorse out of a donkey. And two thoroughbreds don't make a jackass. A good start is half the work. Praise the young, and they will prosper. Say little, and say it well. There is many a clean heart under a dirty collar. You don't know a man until you do business with him. And there's always one more son of a bitch than you counted on. In the end, all things pass, but love and music last forever. Yeah. Okay. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. And may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. All right.